This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean, and here with me is Chris Kent. Hello, Mr. Kent.
Hello, sir.
Joining us today is our distinguished guest, Daniel Dluzneski, with over 2 decades in the U.S. Secret Service and extensive experience in school safety. Daniel has a wealth of knowledge to share with us on this crucial topic. Welcome, Daniel. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, gentlemen.
Let's start with a background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just so we have an understanding of where we're starting from.
Sure. Yeah, I joined the Secret Service a long time ago, back in 1988, right at the end of President Reagan's term, and was there for 24 years. Fortunately, I was able to stay in Washington, D.C. the entire time. Finished up with President Obama, went through the ranks, and finished with the rank of lieutenant. The nice thing was about my job is that it was the uniform division of the Secret Service. I was not one of the guys in the suits that talked to their sleeves. I was in a specialized unit, and that's what I wanted to focus on because the specialized unit had K-9. It had the counter snipers, the guys from the rooftops. It had an ERT or SWAT team on the ground. It had the motorcade support, the motorcycles. It had a crime scene search division. So that's what I wanted to focus on. And that's what, even though I had my degree and I could have gone over to agent and took whatever the TEA exam was, I didn't want to do that. I was happy to stay in Washington, D.C. And fortunately, because I got on a little older than the rest of my peers, it worked out for me. So I was able to work, again, through the ranks and have these specialized positions and enjoyed my time there and was able to stay in D.C. without having to move around. So it worked out. And after I retired, you're going to move down to Florida and just retire. Well, as you know, as an alpha personality, that lasted about 3 months. And my ex-wife now, but at the time said, look, you got to get out. You got to do something. So Pinellas County, where I moved down here in Florida, had an opportunity, and it fit my resume to work with emergency management in their school system. Not realizing, even, when I was in Washington, D.C., everybody, retires and moves to Florida, and that's it. There's all retired people down there. There are a lot of school kids down here. And then when I got in this county, it's a very dense county. And when I joined up with the county system, I had over 100,000 students I was dealing with, 140 schools. And the county was really diverse. Upper county, very white, elite, liberal. Lower county, lower income, blacks, Hispanics, and different school systems. So it actually was a perfect environment for what I got into. And again, this is, we're talking now, when I got on, it was like 2013, just starting to realize that, hey, we need to have better fencing. We need to have harden up our schools. This is obviously before Sandy Hook and before Parkland. So I got into it when, before, even I say the bad stuff, this is after Columbine, obviously, but before the media became very, very focused on what was happening with these schools. So it worked out. And I didn't have autonomy, which in a school system, just like any other bureaucracy, I had to deal with a boss who was an assistant superintendent who dealt with the superintendent who dealt with the school board. So there was different layers. And obviously with law enforcement dealing with education, it was like oil and water. It did not get along. So there was a lot of customer service, a lot of back and forth, and you just you dealt with it. And we did. And when I ended up, I came out in 2018. 4 years I spent there, and got a lot accomplished. I thought. So yeah, it worked out for me. So after that, I just went into consulting and wrote a book after Uvalde, and we can get into that because I was very angry about what happened there. But yeah, it's just an issue that it's uncomfortable to talk about. It's a very niche industry, a very niche subject. And the media will only focus on it, obviously, when there's some huge numbers. 1 or 2 here, 1 or 3 there. Okay, yeah, we'll have an hour on it. But if you have huge numbers, I mean, we're not talking about the guy in Maine. It wasn't a school shooting incident. They focus more on it, like Sandy Hook, like Parkland, like Uvalde. But it's just something that, look, I know you've got questions, but one thing I want to mention is we can't make schools prisons. We're coming up to that, where we're hardening up schools so much they seem like prison type. Look, I'm old school. When I went to school, everything was open. You could walk into a school anytime. You had a janitor that may say, "What the hell are you doing here?" I'm a student here. Okay, well, do whatever you got to do. Now it's completely locked, completely different, completely locked up, and which is a good thing in one respect. However, from a parental perspective, excuse me, now when you walk in the schools, if you haven't been there for a while, it's like a bank. I mean, you're kind of taken aback. It's very claustrophobic because we want the lobby areas hardened up with tempered glass coming all the way down, the little slot at the bottom, the big countertop. And the reason for that was we had people jumping over the counter trying to get into the school. So that's what usually happened. The same thing happened as the Secret Service. If something happened, okay, yeah, the blame game's going to start. Why this? Why that? What? No, you fix it. That's why I like to drill as much as possible with these schools. You drill and you drill and you drill because you fix problems. You fix things. That's what you do. So anyways, my philosophy is a little different than a lot of other school safety supposed experts' philosophy. And we can get into that too, but I'll stop talking here so you guys can get a word in, because watch out. Once I start, it's hard for me to stop.
No. Those are all great points. So it seems like after your Secret Service, you moved into the school safety, and that seemed to be a good fit for you, right? And with your knowledge and background that you had, you could bring those safety aspects that were hurting, the schools were hurting for. They needed those things. And, so with that in mind, what are some challenges that schools face, as far as progress that has been made, in the recent years and moving forward, even into this new age that we're in now?
Well, a lot of, as you guys have probably run into it when you went to school, it was lockdowns. It's been lockdowns since Columbine, which still work. Yes, it's old school. Yes, you feel that you're in a classroom, it's locked, that you are trapped. And the play the devil's advocate, a lot of people say you're sitting ducks. So they thought, well, let's have this new thing. The knee-jerk reaction was, well, what about this run, hide, fight? It was created for the corporate atmosphere. There was a video out there like 20 years ago. The Houston police did it along with Homeland Security, where you have a guy dressed all in black and he comes in with a shotgun, and the narrator, has got the movie trailer voice saying, when the shooter comes in, you've got three things to do. You can either run, or you can hide, or you can fight. And he runs through these three things. And they, for whatever reason, they thought it was a good idea to transfer it over to schools. And I thought, what? Okay. So when this all started happening, I had high school, individuals and administrators say, yeah, high schoolers are adults now. They've matured more than when I was in school back in the 60s. Let's give them the option of doing that. And we did. We ran it at one of these high schools, and I thought, okay, that creates chaos. It's good. They're not sitting there. They're running to a certain point. But then I thought, you get to the fight part. What is that? I said, it's okay. Even if you're trained for months or years, like a police officer, a fireman, and some in the military, I'm not going to have you fight some shooter. That's ridiculous. I mean, why would I put these kids at that kind of risk? So the other thing they came up with, and this was a former law enforcement person also, came up with something called ALICE training. And ALICE training, watch out for the acronyms, because there's a whole bunch of acronyms out there when you come to this kind of stuff. ALICE, alert, alive, well, they'll come up all these acronyms, which supposedly make it more important. Well, ALICE stands for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. Okay, so they thought that was also a good idea for schools. Well, alert and lockdown I get. Okay, you're going to make an announcement, all right, that there's a shooter on campus, gunman on campus, because he could have something else besides a weapon, a gun. And then lockdown. Okay, I agree with those two. The I was informed, and in their training, because I've had teachers go through this training, you're supposed to have a person designated to watch the cameras and inform individuals over the loudspeaker the location of the gunman or the bad guy and where he's going to next, where he or she is going to next. Well, there's no school system in the country that has that. We don't have cameras that can follow someone around. You've got dedicated cameras in certain areas, but you can't pinpoint from one area to another. It's impossible. And why would I designate somebody to do that anyway? So I thought that was crazy. Then you get to the C, which is counter. Now, they argue counter doesn't mean particularly fight. Doesn't mean, really get in there and fight. Counter means you're going to go and you're going to distract this shooter. So what they train, not only teachers, but they're supposed to train students that if a gunman somehow breaches into a classroom, they want the students and the teacher to throw things at them. Pencils, books, iPads, whatever the hell to throw at them. And I'm thinking, okay, here we are back to this almost like this fight thing. Okay, they're not physically putting hands on, but they're throwing stuff at them. So, and I thought it was just me. Then I found out a bunch of my mentors out there who have got a much more experience than I do came back and wrote, pages of dissertation going, this is absolutely nuts. I said, you're going to what? Go in and train students. I don't care what age they are. You could be from, 5th grade up to high school for an hour and a half to, during an emergency, during this emotional, chaotic experience, to precisely throw something at a shooter and hit them all at once. All at once, you're going to throw something at them to distract them to what? Drop the weapon? But it's like, what? No child psychologist, mental health professional has backed this kind of training. It's ludicrous, because not only during the drilling they found out it's legally it's liability, because during the drilling you've had people got injured during this thing because they're running and tripping and all kinds of stuff. But when you think about it, myself in the Secret Service, I had to qualify with my weapon once a month. Every month. As far as I know, the only agency in the United States that has to qualify with their weapon once a month. Most police agencies once every 6 months, once a quarter, sometimes only once a year. So in order to get that training, that implicit memory, that memory control, it just takes over and over and over to do that. I have in my book about implicit memory, and guys, you know what that is. You go into your car, put on a seatbelt, you button a shirt, you do it without thinking, because you've done it so often. Now you're going to have students with an hour and a half of training going to throw things at a shooter in that kind of incident. It's ludicrous. And I thought, okay, again, is it just me? So I'm going through physical therapy, and one of the women there has two children, one in high school and one in middle school, and her son's in middle school. And I said, what kind of training they go through? What kind of safety drills they go through? And she says, well, they have now an automated, they push a button and it automates, comes across saying, we're in a lockdown or we're in a lockout, whatever it is. I said, okay, that's fine. And so what do they do? Do they go into a lockdown in the classroom? And she says, yeah, most of the time they go into a lockdown in the classroom. I said, well, ask your son, who's in middle school, ask him if he feels better being locked in a classroom, or whether he'd rather run out into the hallway and run outside. And she asked him that. And I know this kid's like 12 or 13 years old. He goes, Mom, why would I go out into the hallway with a gunman out there? He says, I'll get shot. He says, I'm going to stay in the classroom. I said, my God, this kid's got common sense. So it's just ludicrous. Yet there are a lot of schools, a lot of school administrators who love this kind of training, because this Alice training gives them empowerment. Because educators feel when you're in a classroom, when you're locked classroom, you're very passive. You're just sitting there. You're just waiting for it to end. You're hearing all this noise and screaming and gunshots. You're just waiting for it to end. On this other side with Alice training, you're reactive. You're doing something. So they thought, okay, this gives me empowerment. Well, no, you're wrong. What are you carrying? If I was teaching nowadays, even as a former law enforcement person, even if I didn't have a weapon, I'm sure as hell not going out in that hallway. Are you kidding me? I don't care if somebody says the gunman's right down the hallway. I don't know if there's another gunman out there. I don't know. Look, let's go back to Parkland. When Parkland happened, there were a lot of articles that came out and said, they never had training before. They never drilled before. Well, that was wrong. They talked to two teachers after that incident. They had trained in a drill for an active shooter lockdown a month before Parkland happened. When it did happen, the majority of people there thought it was another drill, because a lot of drills happen with loud, blanks and stuff like that. They thought, it's another drill. Then what happened is the fire alarm went off. Now, whether it was on purpose or whether a bullet struck the fire alarm or whatever, they had not trained for when the fire alarm went off during a lockdown drill. They just had not trained for that. It was impossible. So now they're like, what the hell do we do? They're told when the fire alarm goes, you got to go. So now there's confusion of go, stay, go, stay. So you go out the hallways, all this chaos going on. They're hearing this gunfire. They're like, well, what the hell? Should we leave or should we stay in the classroom? Some teachers, not a lot, I don't have a number, came out and thought they heard gunfire. They said, I hear gunfire over here. Let's go in the opposite direction. Come on, kids, let's go. They were hearing echoes between the buildings. So they were going towards the shooter. So this idea of, look, there has been nothing documented. I think there's one incident. And there's a gentleman named Michael Dorn. He runs Safe Havens International, a great research facility. He's been doing this for like 40 years. They've done the research, and they found there was one documented case on a Native American reservation where a shooter targeted a locked door to get into that locked door. Otherwise, it has not happened. A shooter will not bust through a locked door. It takes too much time. Their clock's running in their head. That's why my book's called 5 Minutes. Average, this is average from FBI statistics. Average time of a school shooter is 3 to 5 minutes. It doesn't seem like a long time. And when you're involved in it, yeah, it's a long time. So they got a clock in their head also. So they're going to avoid these locked doors. If you've seen the video of the Nashville shooter after they shot out the glass doors, they came in and they're just walking down the hallway trying the doors. Locked, move on. Locked, move on. Open them, going in. They're looking for easy victims. They're not going to deal with a locked door unless it's targeted. You know, that happens a lot in hospitals and stuff because a shooter will come in, they're targeting the doctor, they're targeting the nurses. The shooters just come in because they're looking for numbers. I mean, you saw the guy up in Maine, they're just looking for numbers. So a locked door, you close the blinds, you shut the lights off, you sit quietly on the floor away from the doorway and away from the windows, you silence your phone, you do not listen to any announcements. I don't care if it's fire alarm, if it's an announcement over the loudspeaker, nothing. You wait until someone comes with a key to unlock your door. Someone's knocking on your door, you don't let them in. I'm sorry, it's cruel. You don't let them in. If some kid's stuck out in the hallway, we always tell them, head to the bathroom, get yourself up in the stall, close the door, be quiet. You're going to be okay. So this idea that lockdowns now they're sitting ducks, they're not. They're not sitting ducks. They are safe. They are okay. And a lot of times, because I dealt with more elementary schools, there's just more elementary schools in a school system. They'll have double doors. They'll go through, and I've had it where you go into an elementary school and we'll run the lockdown drill, and then I'll go with the administrators and we'll unlock the doors. Where is everybody? They will take 25 to 30 kids because most elementary schools have a bathroom for these kids. The bathroom maybe fit 5 kids. They've got them stuffed in there. I mean, they got them jammed in there. And they'll open the door to the bathroom. These kids are all jammed up in there, but they're happy. They come out with smiles on their face because they accomplished this great thing. And I tell them, you guys all get a gold star because you did this great thing. You hid from the bad guy. And they will come out with smiles on their faces. And it's great. I told these teachers, you're thinking, if one door is good enough, why not another one? Great. Because you're going to be in there anyways, because you're going to have to go to the bathroom. Most of these things take 2 or 3 hours or longer. Well, there's the bathroom right there. Don't have to worry about that. So it's just trust your teachers. And I had a whole bunch of principals, I say, that don't. Only because elementary school is tough. It's tough because these principals, I'm sure the teachers feel that's their family. And all schools, I'm sure, are like that. But of course, elementary schools, little kids, just they're innocent and naive. And these principals will get emotional with me because we'll go do a drill. Okay, we're going to do a lockdown drill. And usually it's announced. So the parents know, the teachers know it's coming. And we'll run the drill. And I'll say to the principals, okay, what do you guys do when you have a drill? Oh, we go around the campus to make sure that our teachers have the doors locked. Okay, well, what are you going to do during a real incident when there's a real gunman on campus? Well, we're going to go around and check the doors. The doors are locked. I'm like, no, then you're not coming home alive. And they will get emotional. No, these are my kids. I have to go check on them. Look, trust your teachers. That's why we drill. If there's an incident, we'll fix it. But you, as a principal, you have to go in your room, shut the door, lock it, pull the blinds. And I tell you, for principals, like every other alpha personality, you feel helpless. You feel so guilty because you want to do something. You want to save these kids. They're your kids. You got a school of 300-400 kids. It's like, oh my God. And I tell you, it's tough and it's emotional and it's very trying on a lot of these principals. And I have to say, for the fact that it's the teachers too, because I've gone to many, many SAC meetings where you'll have teachers come in early and the hands go up, usually after shooting. I was afraid to come here. My husband wants me to quit. I didn't sign up for this. They didn't. They're supposed to be there teaching. Look, we all know what happened during the pandemic. We lost all this teaching, at least 2 years. And the schools, the whole country, and especially down here in Florida, it's just they're under pressure. Our schools are graded, just like the kids are graded. So if you got a D or F school, I mean, you're already under pressure to bring that grade up. Otherwise, they'll shut the school down. You're out of a job. So these teachers, the pressure is immense. Not only the stress of getting the grades up for the kids, but having the school itself grade go up. So you're under pressure from the superintendent on down to the principal. Hey, we got to get these kids up. So now you're going to tell me I got to train for some shooter that may come into the school. And not only that, you're going to give me options. So instead of saying, like what's happening a lot in the country, instead of saying to teachers, look, got one option. We're going to lock down. We're good. You already got the classroom door locked. And I emphasize that. Thankfully, by the time I left Pinellas County, I said, lock your classroom doors during classroom time, during school time. Lock the door. You're already one step ahead. Oh, no, the kids, they go out and they want to pass and they come back and forth and I got to open the door. Tough. Keep the door locked. You got less than one step that you got to take. And that's it. You lock down. Well, now they want to give the teachers an option of, okay, you can lock down, or you can do the Alice or run, hide, fight thing and take your children out and run out of the school. Why the hell would you give a teacher an option like that? Why would you put even more? Why you talk about liability? Can you imagine the teacher going, hey, kids, well, I'm going to take all 25 of you kids and we're going to go out in this hallway and you're going to hear all kinds of weird noise. You are going to hear these loud, you may see blood, you may see people killed, but step over them. We're going to head to that exit and we're going to be safe. And that's not the only classroom. You got more than one classroom is going to do this. So what's going to happen? They're going to all funnel down at that exit and pile up there and God knows what's going to happen. It's like the most ludicrous thing to come out of a perfectly safe classroom and now you're going to run down this hallway, you hope, and get out without getting shot and seeing all these horrible things. So it just, why? Why are you giving teachers this option? Why would you do that? Let them stay in the lockdown. You're good. You're okay. Everybody's going to be safe. Yeah, you're going to have to wait a long time, but the good guys are coming. I tell you, Nashville was perfect. I haven't even seen the video, not only of the shooter, but the video of the camera on the officer that was there. They did it perfect. They were there on time. They were right there. Came in, searched the rooms. They just pinpointed down. They went. And that's the training. I know Uvalde that's an anomaly. That was an absolute anomaly for the police action there. But there were other problems that happened at that school with doors open and stuff like that. And the security guard wasn't there. But the way they ran in Nashville was perfect. That's the way it should be run. You go. I was trained for that. I don't care if it's one officer, two, whatever. You go. And you stop that from happening. So that's the way it should be. And that's the way it always should be. 99.9% of the time, that's what's going to happen. Now, two things I suggest, and I emphasize. Number one, you keep yourself safe. And I don't care whatever situation you're in. You as a parent, you as a person, you with your family, you keep yourself safe first. I like to give the example when you're in an airplane and an oxygen mask comes out. What did they tell you? You put the oxygen mask on first, then you can help a child or an elderly individual next to you. You keep yourself safe first. Then you can help other people. Same thing with the school system. Secondly, emphasize you want school resource officers, armed school resource officers in your school system. They're an advocate. Because of this BLM and defund the police movement, now students are like, oh, no, I feel oppressed. I feel uncomfortable with that guy over there in the uniform with the gun on. No, I don't want him in my school. I feel anxious, blah, blah. Bullshit. The parents are the ones that are pushing this, saying, no, we want those officers in the school. And they're not there to arrest you. They don't have arrest powers. They have weapons to stop a shooter that comes in that school to protect you. They are an advocate for the students, the administrators, and the parents. Those two things I always try to push on any podcast I give, that you keep yourself safe, and SROs in your schools. Now you're going to say, okay, I don't have the budget for it. Well, find it. Find a grant. There's ways to find grants. I'm fortunate here in Florida, the legislature did give enough money, and it's not 100%, but they now have put in school resource officers in every school, even elementary schools, all the way, from high schools on down, and it goes by the number of students. So those two things definitely emphasize. And I'm sorry, I keep going on, and so I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions.
No. You're doing good. You're doing good. And so active shooters, that seems, right now that's a significant concern. I'm sure there's other concerns that schools need to be aware of and worried about, but active shooter right now seems to be the thing that we need to maybe conquer first. And you've already went over a couple things, but if you had to boil it down to like the top five, we'll say five because your book is the first 5 minutes. What are the first 5 things that the school should implement as sort of new protocol to help keep their students and their faculty safe in those type of situations?
Okay, there's 5 things you should do, and I probably can give you 5 things you're not supposed to do. 5 things you should do is number 1 is train your people. It's the human factor. It's absolutely the human factor. I know we could talk about technology, which to me is the 5 things you shouldn't do, but it's the human factor. And I know we get into drilling, and I tell you, yes, is there a chance of over drilling, drilling too much? Because after a while, people are like, oh Christ, we've got to go through this again, and it just, you're just bored, and I don't want to deal with this again. But I'm sorry, you should at least drill. I push for once a month. Okay, maybe that's too much, even though once a month you do a fire drill. The problem with lockdown drills is they take longer. I mean, minimum for high schools, 45 minutes. It's the best I've ever done. It's 45 minutes. You're talking over an hour, for a lockdown drill. So, drilling and the people. That's the number one thing. The second thing would definitely be, I call it hardening up the schools, because what a lot of school safety experts now say, it's a holistic approach. The holistic approach, meaning, the people, the hardening up, the technology, the cameras, blah, 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 all this other stuff. Drilling is to me, and the human factor is number 1. Number 2 would be, okay, you're going to have to harden up your school. Make sure all your doors are closed during school time. In the entire school, you have one entrance only. And that one entrance is going to force them into a lobby area. Just like we have a hotel. You got to go through the lobby to get in. In order to get in, you have to have access to get in, and they're going to buzz you in or escort you in. If not, you're back out. And I know I emphasize this, and people just kind of shrug their shoulders. Yeah, we got our doors closed. No, I tell you right now, I can go to any high school right now in my area. I'm going to find a door open. I'm going to find it. It'll only take me 5 minutes. Doors are propped open all the time. And the reason is, number 1, students late. Number 2, teachers are late. Number 3, somebody's setting out for a smoke. Number 4, somebody order a pizza. Number 5, I could go through the whole list of these doors propped open. And don't you think shooters are watching this? Majority of shooters are either former students or current students. And it's not something they woke up one morning and said, hey, I'm going to go shoot up a school. This stuff is planned months in advance, with social media, with writings, with stuff, manifestos, whatever the hell is out there. They're watching your school, and they're looking for those opportunities. Cruz knew exactly what doors, what gates were open at Parkland. He knew exactly which ones were. So that's the other thing. Drilling, the human factor, the doors, make sure they are closed during school time. Just walk around. The third thing that very few people mention, back when I was in school, you had student committees, and usually people that wanted to get into law enforcement or military. But back then, it wasn't about doors being open. It was usually people smoking. They were all upset about kids smoking. Oh my God, the kids are smoking. Nowadays, come on. These kids have ownership of the school, and I'm talking middle and high school. You've got ownership. You go to the sporting events. You go, to the whatever events are happening there. Take ownership of your school. You know what? Walk around the building every once in a while. Get off the damn phone at your study period and just walk around. Yeah, there may be SROs there. They can't be everywhere. Walk around the school. You're not snitching on anybody because you're looking for those damn doors or windows to be open somebody can crawl through or place a weapon inside. That's it. That's all you're doing. You can't walk around the school? I mean, come on. It's your school. Why would you want some? Look what happened in Washington. What was it, like 5 kids or something with masks on came in and decided they're going to, whatever they were doing in the school, they came through an open door or they were let in by a student who didn't realize who they were, and here they come running through. Obviously didn't have weapons or anything, luckily, but it's just that is a real pet peeve of mine, because I found that all the time. Those stinking wedges propping those doors open it's ridiculous. I'm sorry, we wanted 5. The other thing is, okay, cameras are good. You don't, there is technology out there. It just costs way too much to have cameras that zoom in and move, to have stationary cameras. But I tell you what, yes, cameras are okay, but kids are kids. They know where the cameras don't, under whatever stairs. They know, I mean, come on, these kids are tech wizards nowadays. They're going to know where the cameras are not, so they're going to do whatever they're going to do. So yeah, have cameras, but I tell you what, if you have issues with your budget, I still like the people aspect of it. And the other thing is, again, because of Parkland, make sure you know what the difference is between different aspects of it. So fire alarm goes off during, let's say, an active shooter situation. What we were telling people is, look, just stick your head out in the hallway. You smell smoke, okay, yeah, it's fire. You better get out. But if you're hearing gunfire, get your ass back in the classroom and lock the classroom door. They threw the fire alarm off just to throw you off, try to get easy victims. So with that aspect, just have that kind of issue where they know what's what. The other thing that comes up is a lot of people get very confused with, you'll have police activity in the area, so they go into a lockdown. No one's on school grounds, but they go into a lockdown. I've had this happen multiple times where they're in a lockdown for like 3 or 4 hours, and they're calling me going, hey, what happened? We heard a helicopter and the police are around. Now they're not here anymore. Nobody's called us and tell us to get out of the lockdown. Look, police are out chasing somebody. You think their priority is to call the school? They want to get the bad guy. They want to, do whatever they're doing. So I'm not going to blame the police for something like that. Yes, should there be a liaison talking with the school? Yeah. Doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But something like that is, it is discretion, because, if there is police activity in the area, what we call, it's called a lockout. And basically what that means, if you've got police activity in the area around your school, just shut everything down. Stay in the classrooms. Now, if it's an interior, if it's outer, if you have to go out into a open area, yeah, avoid that. But if it's an inner area, you can transfer between classes in a lockout. Just don't go outside, outside of the building or anything, because they're not on the campus. A lockout is there's activity in the area where there's a possibility that someone may come onto your campus. Once they're on campus, then you can go into a lockdown. But don't do it ahead of time, because it's kind of a waste, The other thing you mentioned about active shooter being on everyone's mind. Yeah, it's on people's minds, but again, it's like being struck by lightning and winning the lottery. More than likely it's not going to happen to your school. Sure. I'm sure Sandy Hook and Parkland said the same thing. Never happened here. Never happened here. I just prepare people for the possibility. Look, I'm just preparing you for what might happen. That's all. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Have the confidence. You know what to do. But with something like that, what's happening more nowadays is just weapons being introduced into the classroom. Yeah, that 6-year-old up in Virginia brings a gun in. Come on, are you kidding me? So that's what's happening more often, is weapons being introduced in the classroom, being brought in backpacks, knives, weapons, guns, whatever. And it's usually either gang-related, or the kid's being bullied, or he's afraid, or he's curious, because it's happened in elementary schools. They're curious. Kids are kids, especially boys. Come on. We all know when you tell somebody not to do something and you keep them from doing it, they're going to want to do it. Just like you tell a kid, don't take a drink, don't smoke that joint, don't do it. They're going to do it. So they're curious about all this kind of stuff. So let's get to the bad stuff, the stuff that is negative, that you should never do. Metal detectors. Now, yes, I know the technology is out there, and it's gotten better and better every year. It has. It's gotten better. I have a gentleman that used to work with the Secret Service. He's with a company called Open Gate. I can't remember what. It starts with a C, whatever his company is. Anyway, he told me, look, I talked to him. I said, look, nothing's 100%. He goes, no, Dan, you're right. It's not 100%. If they go through with a laptop, Chromebook, something like that, it's going to set it off. It just doesn't have the technology yet to notice that it's just a laptop. It thinks it's a weapon. So that's one thing that doesn't work. The other thing is the cost. Okay, maybe you'll get a grant to put in, metal detectors, and it doesn't really cost you anything. So you have these kids go through, and they don't have to take their backpacks off. They can walk through, and we'll detect whether there's a weapon there or not. Again, not 100%. Weapons have gotten through, knives and some, Glocks, plastic guns can get through. But when you think about it, if I'm a bad guy with intentions of going in shooting up a school, do you think a metal detector is going to stop me? No. I'm a crazy ass. I'm going to go in there and shoot the place up. What the hell's a metal detector going to do? All it does, it's a knee-jerk, feel-good security theater operation. That's it. Because you'll go in front of the parents' council or whatever and say, hey, we got metal detectors. We're good. Whew, done. I'm back to my office. Everything's good. No, it makes you feel good. Oh, we got metal detectors now, like everybody else. Like you go to the airport and all this kind of stuff. Okay, it's just one part of it, but it's a costly part of it because the hours spent not only in staffing that and the maintenance on these things, it's just a moneymaker for the companies. And as long as they keep pushing it and it's just not there, yeah, maybe AI eventually, when I'm dead, maybe when you guys are still alive, maybe 20, 30 years from now, it may come out where, but again, then it's going to be kind of evasive. You get into the civil rights thing. Well, what is this thing? Going to, body image me when I come in? I mean, I don't want that. So no, stay away from metal detectors. Again, it's just not right, because if I want to get the gun in the school, if any kid wants to get a gun in it, you're going to get it in. When are you going to get it in? During an after school event, easy. During a day event, there's a door always propped open, throw it in there. A buddy of yours, hey, take my backpack. You don't have to tell him what's in it. Can you get my backpack in there? I forgot my lunch is in there, whatever. You're going to get a weapon in this school if you seriously want to get that weapon in there. So no, metal detectors, don't work. And again, we will stick with technology. Yeah, this thing about, they'll have systems on an app. Everybody's got an app. Even when I went through, they had apps. Hey, I got this app. Will you push a button on your phone? It'll call the police. It'll shut things down. It'll lock the doors. It'll turn the light, whatever the heck they're talking about. Do all this whiz bang stuff in this app. Well, then you go to test it. And they'll say, well, okay, yeah, it'll work on Wi-Fi. It'll work on 5G. It'll work on LTE. And then you get there, and school systems are, kind of like corporate buildings. There's going to be dead zones. It happens. There's going to be dead zones. And we tested it. Yep, there are dead zones. So, okay, what are you doing? And then the other thing is, so now you're going to tell teachers they have to have this app. Well, are they using their personal phones? Are you going to give them school phones to do this? Maybe they don't want the app on there. Maybe this app's got information that they don't want to put on there. So we've tested this stuff. It's not perfected. It probably never will be, because I'm sorry, crap happens. The stuff doesn't work. I had an incident at one of the high schools where we already had this app in place. Everything was in place. And what it was a kid said he saw an individual in the bathroom with a gun. Okay, lockdown. We're going to lockdown. Here come the police. Here come the dogs. We're there. We're searching all this stuff. And I'm getting to the subject of phones and social media, but everything turned out okay. It was a false rumor. The problem was not only this idea of this app, which didn't work, it just completely it didn't work. What happened was, because our kids, with their phones, they started airdropping to other kids and to teachers that, oh, I saw Johnny with a gun. So that started. In another classroom, I saw Susan with a gun. And this just snowballed, because that's what happens when you have kids that are kids, bad, good, whatever. They just start playing games. And it just screws everything up. I'll tell you another incident. Bomb threats. You and I know when we were kids, you either pull a fire alarm, call in a bomb threat, because I don't want to take the test that day. No, I'm not prepared for this test. I'll call in a bomb threat. Well, now when you call in a bomb threat, not only is it felony, thank God, 99% of the time they're going to evacuate. I argued with them for years about this. I said, did you see a device? Well, no. Well, why are you evacuating? Well, because we got a bomb threat. Well, what? Why? You've got 1,500 kids in this school. You're going to evacuate them for a threat? What, was it specific? No, they just called up and said there's a bomb in your school and hung up. I'm like, wait a minute. They didn't give you a room, a teacher, a floor, a specific item, nothing. And you're evacuating. Yes, because God forbid one student, loses their life, and they're so afraid of the press and the media. Okay, so you get rid of 1,500 kids and you send them. They got to be at least 1,000, 2,000 feet away from the school. God forbid if there was a bomb that went off. Well, right next to the high school is a middle school of another 800 kids. Well, you got to evacuate them too. So now, guess what? The phones. And we'll bring up the phones. And I know it is a school security and safety issue with these damn phones. Here come the rumors. And they will start texting their parents. Number one, I'm evacuated because there's a bomb in the school. Well, guess what's happening next? Here come the parents. And I mean, you talk about a flood of, here they come. I had to get a ladder truck out in front of the school to stop them from driving into the school. It just was the only thing I could do. So here are these kids, wherever, and now they're on their phones sending stuff, and now the rumors start. Yeah, I saw a backpack on such and such floor with wires sticking out. Yeah, I saw this, and it goes on and on and on. And you're like, are you shitting me? Anyway, again, nothing was found. There was nothing. It was nothing. Just a disruption of the entire day. Because guess what? The parents were already there. Half the day's over. I'm taking them home. They ruined that freaking day. Phones. I just had a teacher last night came over. He teaches in a school of 500. It's a magnet school. Anyway, I said, over in Europe, you got Italy, France, Germany. They don't allow phones in schools. I'm sure the Asian countries, same thing. United Kingdom just came out and said, you know what? Next year, we're going to ban children bringing cell phones into schools. They've already got statistics and studies done. It helps with kids' focus. It helps with their depression and anxiety. It definitely helps with their grades to get these damn phones away from them. And guess what? I don't care if you come in and a teacher says, put the phone in the backpack. Because guess what? They turned on the hotspot. And as soon as they're on the Wi-Fi, for the school's Wi-Fi, it shows up there, I have my hotspot. There was absolutely no reason. And I have no arguments with anyone that says they need cell phones in schools. Why? Why do they need a cell phone? What reason would they have it in school? You want the cell phone? Yeah, go home and pick it up. Because guess what also? Nowadays with the social media, it's absolutely ruining kids. It's ruining them. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all this crap. And all it does now is create cyberbullying. And when we were in school, I don't know if you guys went through it, I was bullied. You went to school, you were bullied, you got through it, you went home, you're done. Nowadays, 24 hours a day is bullying. It's 24 hours a day. No wonder these kids are suicidal and depressed because they got it on.
And not only that, but it's so much easier now because everybody has the phone and they can hide behind the phone, pushing the buttons and say whatever they want to whoever they want. Back in the day, you had to actually stand up to somebody or stand up to the bully in order to get out of it. It's not like that anymore.
No, absolutely. Be anonymous. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you 100% because now you know who it was and who did this stuff. Now, anonymously, they can get on there and bully you forever. And I'm sure it's, statistics hold it out that girls are worse than boys. Anyway, that's just a negative. And I hope eventually this country wakes up and gets these cell phones away from these kids in schools. But I'm sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent. Excuse me. Let's talk about the book.
Okay.
It's called The First 5 Minutes, again, because the FBI statistics show that every school shooting is about 3 to 5 minutes long. And that's why I call it The First 5 Minutes. And I wrote it after Uvalde because my current wife, she said, look, you gotta vent. You get stuff out there. You got to put this stuff down. So I did. It's only 77 pages long. I did not want a 200 to 300 page book filled with edge-speak that's put on a shelf and collects dust. Because I tell you what, if you've ever read any of these stuff, if you've even looked at any of this, it's boring. Oh my God, you go through this. It's like, what? I mean, no. I wanted something short, practical, concise. Somebody could pick it up, turn the page. Okay, that's it. This is what I need to do. It's for teachers, mainly. It'd be great if administrators looked at it too, but it's also for parents to take a look at this. I tell parents, look, talk to your kids. I know it's difficult today. I got a 17-year-old. 2 years ago, just the level. Look, I was a teenager. I didn't want to talk to my parents. I didn't even do my parents. I just do my own thing. Come home, how was school? Great, boom, gone. Gone to his room, locked, got the cell phone, got the video games, got going on. Okay. Parents, you got to talk to your kids. I don't care what age they are. Just ask them a question. What's happening at your school? Are you guys doing any kind of safety drills? If you are, what are they doing? Are you locking yourselves in a classroom? Are they having you run out? Just ask them. And if there's something, a red flag goes up. If you're talking, there's, oh yeah, we ran out of the school. What? You did what? That's when you go to the school board. Now, I understand people they're not afraid, but they're uncomfortable going in front of the school because you get 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a long time. You could read a full page, maybe a page and a half in 3 minutes. You can get it in there and just find out, that you disagree with this. Bring up statistics. I tell you, you can easily go to I don't have a site, I'm sorry. But you can check my book out, or you can email me. I'm on LinkedIn. 2 sites I suggest. One is Safe Havens International. I think it's safehavensinternational.org. I think it's an ORG. Michael Dorn, that's the one I talked about. Much research. He's got all kinds of stuff in there you can bring up about what works and what doesn't. And the other one is Kenneth Trump, Dr. Trump, no relation to the ex-president. He's got like 30, 40 years of experience, just got his PhD. This guy has been all over Congress and stuff. This guy is the expert to go to in any of these issues, and both are mentors of mine. But they both, again, same thing. Parents, you have to talk to your kids. You have to find out what's going on. I know more and more parents groups are getting involved with the teaching and stuff like that. Find out about the safety also, because the kids got to be safe in order to learn. I mean, that's the bottom line. You got to feel safe in order to learn. Anyways, back to the book. I wanted it short. I wanted it concise. I wanted to explain about implicit memory, the idea of drilling over and over again until you get it, until something happens, and boom, I know what to do. In the book, I've got a generic safety plan. It's just a blank page that you can download and put safety stuff in there. I also what I did was, and I know we're not videoing, but I got these credit card size cards. You can laminate them, and they're in there. You can download those also, and it's just a quick reference card. And the reason I found out that it works is I talked to a doctor friend of mine, and she works in the emergency room, and she says, "Oh yeah, we have those all the time." I said, "We talked about it." She says, "Well, they'll come out with a code purple or a code black." She says, "I can't remember all the colors. So you got to look on the card. Oh yeah, it means this." I said, "Okay." And the same thing here. I've got, lockout, lockdown, bomb threat, fire emergency. It's just because you're going to forget something. Look, I've got the training. I went through 9/11 at the White House, but there's going to be times no one knows exactly how they're going to react in an emergency. You don't know how you're going to react. So a lot of times you just freeze. Hell, you forget what day it is. I mean, you'll just blank out. So you easily can look at the card and go, "Oh, geez, I forgot to turn the lights off, or I forgot to pull the blinds down." It happens. It happens during normal stuff, never mind during an emergency. Plenty of stories in there. One story I got, North County of here. It was Pasco County. Smaller county, more rural. Anyways, middle school. And I had a coworker, his wife was the assistant principal at the school. Well, across the street from them, they had an individual who was mad at his mother's boyfriend. Didn't like him at all. He got himself a rifle, and he was going to do some damage. Well, he started shooting up the outside of the home. Well, as he's spraying, some of the bullets hit the school. They go into a lockdown, which is what they should have done. Everything turned out okay. The police arrived, calmed him down, got a hold of him, arrested him. He's gone. Okay. Well, anytime you have a lockdown like that, whether it's a drill or whether it's an actual one, you have an after-action event. So the assistant principal gets together with all her people on the committee. She found out. Now, she had trained these people, went through drills. Everything seemed to be fine. 1/3 of her teachers froze. Absolutely froze. Nothing. Didn't know anything. That's going to happen. That's why I ask that you drill as much as possible to find out you fix the problem. So it's going to happen. And it's sad to say that it's going to happen again. It is. We can't prevent this. And again, I don't want schools to be prisons, but be prepared. That's all. Yes, you can talk about mental health. Yes, you can talk about social justice and threat assessment teams. Absolutely, they're a good thing to have that. But it's going to happen again. It's not something we can 100% prevent. I would tell everybody, even when you go to these schools, say, "Hey, I went through and did a safety survey and you guys are good. Well, we 100%. I would never tell anybody they're 100%. No one's ever going to be 100% safe. You can't. So that was the idea behind the book. It's something, again, that's a short read. You read an hour and a half easily and get something out of it. Because again, I didn't want it sitting on somebody's desk. It's just something that's easy to read, and you do hopefully get something out of it. And again, I strictly stick with lockdowns. None of this stuff about running or hiding or fighting against a shooter. None of that stuff. Just strictly deal with lockdowns. Excuse me.
Well, and you talk a little bit about practical takeaways, and I like that side of it. And you know, we're martial arts instructors. That's our kind of our day job, and we teach a lot of kids. And so I think we have a lot of, you know, kind of the overlap there as far as the compassion for the kids. And I have two young daughters that are in school, and it is wild the amount of kind of misinformation that's out there. And being our background and your background, I think is we have an understanding that practice is so important. Now, they quote unquote, they say practice makes perfect. Well, I don't believe that practice makes perfect. I also don't believe that perfect practice makes perfect. That's not something that can happen. Practice makes
Right.
permanent. The way you practice something is the way you perform it. And in these type of situations, these active shooter type of situations, the practice needs to elevate everybody's level of stress in those situations, which is scary for the faculty, for schools, but also for the students, you know, that are in the school. But that is a necessary factor for them to understand what and how to react and respond in those situations. So, you know, you talked about drilling. What would be a, you know, you don't have to go super in depth, but what's a breakdown of a drill, you know, that would kind of encompass this type of practice?
Excellent question, Chris. And we've had that happen across schools across the country where you've had police departments take blanks, act as if they're a shooter, shoot the blanks off so teachers can hear that what the gun sounds like. That's going way too overboard. You don't want to do that. You don't need to do something like that. If I encourage teachers to basically go to a gun range and just listen, hear what it sounds like. You don't need to do it in a school environment. Look, yes, I understand. I always like realistic, and I always like unannounced drills because you're going to see what's going to happen. You have to see what's going to happen. And again, you have to get that kind of adrenaline, that fight or flight response. You want to get that. However, it's just nowadays not only helicopter parents, but the idea that everything triggers people, and especially kids. Things, they get triggered. So a lot of parents have said, you're going to run a drill? I'm not having my kid there that day. I don't want him to be anxious. I don't want him to go through this. Like, well, then what's going to happen during a real one if they don't have any idea? You've got to give them some kind of basis to understand, look, this is what's going to happen. And you're giving us the opportunity to teach your child, but also to make them safe if something does happen. Not that it ever will. We want to make sure. Look, they do fire drills. When's the last time a child died in a fire? It's something like 130 years ago or something like that. I mean, I argued with my fire marshal all the time about this. Once a month? Oh my God, you could do it in your sleep blindfolded. Fire drill goes off, you walk out, okay, you walk back in. I mean, come on. The doors and walls, the sprinkler systems, I mean, that fire's not going anywhere, even if there is one. So, yeah, once a month is probably too much. Drill, the way I ran a drill was I tried again to do unannounced as much as possible. I had principals sometimes that welcome that. I want to see how my teachers react. I want to see how the students react. They were very proactive. And that was even in elementary schools. They wanted to see it. Other schools, not so much. You got to middle or high school, some were like, no, we got to announce it. I said, all right, let's do this. Let's put out to teachers and parents that during this week, there's going to be a lockdown drill. I'm not going to tell you what day, I'm not going to tell you what time, but just expect it during this week. That way, at least, look, you've advised them, it's out there, it's been announced, okay? Then during the week, you run it or whatever time. But of course, the rumors start, teachers, what? We're human. People are human. What are they going to do, Chris? They're going to pre-plan. They're already going to have the blinds closed. They're going to have the lights off because I got to get through this. I got all these papers I got to grade. I got a test coming up. Let's get this crap over with. Because it's an hour and a half at most for a lockdown drill. Try to avoid that. Look, please don't pre-plan because that doesn't fix anything if something goes wrong. And you're always going to find something wrong. Always. I've had plenty of schools where they make the announcement, half the school couldn't hear it. We had the old system where you had a panel. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember. I remember. Had this panel with all these buttons and red lights on it, and you picked up the microphone and you put over the microphone, hey, announcement, their car lights are on or whatever. They still have that in some of my schools. The rest of them, luckily, have phones. Pick up the phone, you dial something, or you push it. I don't want them dialing numbers. I'm sorry, here I am complaining, but it happens. I've had a school, you had to pick up the phone and dial like 5 numbers to make an announcement. Are you kidding me? You're going to forget. What are the numbers again? You better write it down. I don't know. You push a button, one button, make the announcement. So that was the thing about the phones and the announcement. But you're going to find this stuff out. That's why you drill more often. And then I've had it where you've got substitute teachers. They don't have the keys to lock the door or unlock the door or do whatever they need to do. Oh, my God. So, yeah. I try to drill as real as possible. I would be a ghost. I'd say, look, I'm going to go around the campus. I'm the ghost. I'm not acting as a shooter, but I just want to observe what's going on. And yeah, I've had schools that have run them pretty darn good. I mean, really perfectly. I would go through, knock on doors, try to unlock the doors and quiet. I mean, silent, like the entire school is empty. Perfect. And I told the teacher that. I said, you would think if you came in as a shooter, like, there's nobody here. I mean, that's the way to run it, that there's no one there. Why would a shooter go into that room? Because I don't hear a thing. I'm not going in there. So it just worked out really good. But again, most of these teachers know, and I ask that the school system train the substitutes the same way, because you're going to run them the same way through the entire county system. Train the substitutes before they even go there so they know the drill. You run the drill. Afterwards, you designate your staff with the keys. Most important, you want to unlock those doors. You do not want to make an announcement saying, hey, we're done. Okay, come on, everybody's done. No, I don't know if the principal's being held hostage. I don't know what the hell's going on. You want them to, someone in authority, an administrator or police with a key, unlock that door. Now, when you go in, lockdown's over. However, I need you to stay quiet until I get the entire campus unlocked, because what's happened, especially in high schools, half the campus is running around to another class, the other half is still locked down. Like, come on. Everybody's got walkie-talkies. You just talk to each other. You unlock all the doors. Then at the end, you have your after action. You get together and you talk about it. So it's really, yes, it does take some time, but it is something that's important to run these drills correctly and not skip a step, because I've had schools skip a step. However, I have had some principals that are very proactive. I had a principal with a bullhorn. It was an elementary school. Went out into the foyer area during the drill. He announced, hey, it's over. Come on out. We're done. Everybody, we're all set. Okay, we're good. 90% of the teachers are like, no, it's a trick. We're not doing that. He had 2 substitute teachers that were like, yeah, okay, good. Come on, kids, let's go. It was the kids, 5th graders. No, it's a trick. It's a trick. These kids aren't that naive. They know what the heck's going on. I mean, I've had plenty of 5th graders that show me where the key is to lock the doors that's hiding in the fire extinguisher cabinet. I had them go in and do it. I said, you guys are heroes. I said, what if your teacher passes out or something? Somebody's got to lock those doors. And these kids are great. They want to do stuff. They want to help. All little kids want to help. Middle and high school, not so much. Elementary school kids, yeah, they want to help. And it depended on the area. I've had the elite white schools up north grab ass and joking around during a drill, and I've had the SROs go in and read them their rights. And yet I have a lot, I had low income schools, Black Hispanics. They know what's going on, because guess what? They're going to go home, and more than likely over the weekend there's going to be a shooting in their neighborhood. So when they run the drill, dead silent. You don't hear a peep, because they know what the deal is if something happens. So again, it all depends on the schools themselves, the area, the diversity. And like I said, I was lucky that I had that kind of diversity in my system. And I apologize, but I'm getting close to where I have to go. We're almost up to an hour, both you guys, and I appreciate being on. But if I talk too much, a lot of times people just get bored and want to skip through the podcast. I don't want to talk. I want to hear this guy for an hour and get to the good part.
Well, Daniel, thank you. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your insight. school safety. Your dedication to this cause is truly it's commendable. And I guess one last thing is, do you have any key takeaways for our listeners here?
Again, the first two things I mentioned: keep yourself safe, and I don't care if it's in a school system, you go to a mall, you go to a restaurant, you go wherever. Anything can happen, as we've seen in Walmart, Target, with these incidents. Keep yourself safe first, and you can save other people and the SROs. Very important. My book is on Amazon, First 5 Minutes. If you type in the first 5 minutes, it should come up in one of your searches there. I'm on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm not on here to sell the book. It's more about awareness and the message. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. It's something that I think is very important, and I appreciate the venue like this to be able to get the word out. Both you guys.
Very good. Thank you. That wraps up another insightful episode of the Prestigious Initiative. If you found today's conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, school safety is a collective effort, and we can all play a part in making our schools safer for our students, educators, and staff. Until next time, stay informed, stay prepared, and stay safe.